After a billionaire CEO releases his autobiography, he gets a visit from a little girl. "Sir, you forgot to put mommy in your book." He smirks, amused, and asks, "What did your mommy do to deserve a place in my book?" But he freezes in shock at the little girl's response. Romeo Callaway had spent years perfecting his image. Every interview, every handshake, every strategic move had led him to this moment, standing in a grand ballroom filled with adoring fans clutching copies of the Callaway legacy, eager for his signature. The air was thick with the scent of expensive cologne and champagne, the kind of luxurious celebration he had grown accustomed to. His name was everywhere, printed in gold on banners draped over marble pillars. A bestseller, naturally, people loved an underdog story, and he had given them one: rags to riches, risk to reward, struggle to success, the polished, curated version of his past delivered in a neat 400-page package. He had just signed another book when a small voice cut through the hum of conversation. "Sir, you forgot to put mommy in your book." Romeo barely glanced up at first, expecting some doting mother behind the child, maybe an overzealous fan hoping to tug at his heartstrings. But there was no one, just a little girl standing there, gripping the book like it held the answers to the universe. She couldn't have been older than 7, her dark curls slightly frizzy from the humidity, her expression steady and almost expectant, as if she had rehearsed this moment 100 times. He let out a short breath, more amused than anything. "Did I now?" He capped his pen, leaning back in his chair. "And who might your mother be?" The girl tilted her head. "She's the part you left out." That got his attention. He sat up straighter, studying her more carefully. The media was always on high alert. Cameras shifted, flashes flickered, and someone whispered. He could already picture the headlines. He rested his forearms on the table, keeping his tone light. "What's your name?" "Lily Monroe." The name landed like a quiet thud in his chest. Monroe. His mind ticked through old memories, but nothing came immediately. He didn't flinch, didn't let it show. "And what makes you think your mom should be in my book?" Lily lifted her copy, flipping to the dedication page. She tapped a tiny finger against the words, "For those who stood by me because you said this and you forgot her." The room had quieted. People were watching now, waiting for his reaction. He could feel the weight of their curiosity pressing in, the speculation forming, before he could even decide how he felt about it himself. He kept his response measured. "That's quite an accusation." Lily didn't waver. "It's not an accusation. It's the truth." Before he could respond, a woman in an event staff uniform approached, gently resting a hand on Lily's shoulder. "Sweetheart, let's not disturb Mr. Callaway." Romeo was about to say something. He wasn't sure what, when Lily shrugged off the woman's touch. "I'm not disturbing him. I'm just telling him what he forgot." Then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she turned and walked away, her small frame disappearing into the crowd. The event resumed, but Romeo barely registered the rest of the night. His hand moved automatically as he signed books, smiled for photos, and answered questions, but his mind remained fixed on the girl with the impossible certainty in her voice. He should have brushed it off. Kids said things all the time, yet something about the encounter gnawed at him. Later, in the back seat of his car, he stared at the city lights streaking past the tinted windows. He told himself to let it go. Instead, he pulled out his phone. "Noah," he said as soon as his assistant picked up. There was a rustling of papers in the background. "Boss, I hope you're not calling to yell at me for leaving early. I was drowning in rich people and oversized shrimp." Romeo ignored that. "I need you to look into something. Define something. A kid named Lily Monroe. Find out where she came from." There was a beat of silence before Noah whistled. "The one from the signing? That was gold. You should have seen the look on people's faces." "I don't care about the press," Romeo said, "which is why I want you to dig into it." "All right, I'll see what I can find. Who's the mom?" Romeo hesitated. "That's what I need you to find out." There was a pause before Noah spoke again, his tone laced with amusement. "I know that look. You can't see me, but I don't need to. You get this weird, thoughtful silence when something actually gets to you." Romeo exhaled sharply. "Just find out." Noah chuckled. You got it, boss. The call ended, but the unease didn't fade. The next morning, Romeo arrived at his office early, pretending he wasn't waiting for an answer. He buried himself in work, pushing through meetings, emails, and an endless stream of numbers and projections. But every so often, his mind wandered back to Lily's small voice, to the quiet certainty in the way she had said, "You forgot her." By noon, Noah strolled into his office, a manila folder in hand. He dropped it onto the desk with an exaggerated thud. Well, he said, flopping onto the couch. You're not going to like this. Romeo opened the file. The first thing he saw was a name, Charlotte Charlie Monroe. The air in the room seemed to shift. The name pulled him backward, unraveling years in a single instant. He could see her, wild, sharp, relentless, the woman who had once been the closest thing he had to a home, the one he had walked away from without looking back. Noah smirked. I take it you remember her? Romeo closed the file, fingers pressed against the cover like it might burn through his skin. Where is she now? Noah stretched, looking entirely too entertained by the situation. Small bookstore, decent neighborhood. No scandals, no dirt, just a quiet life. Romeo tapped a finger against the desk. And the kid? Noah shrugged. Lily Monroe, 7 years old, lives with Charlie. No record of a father. He leaned forward, eyes sharp with curiosity. So, boss, want to tell me what's so special about her mom? Romeo didn't answer. Instead, he stared out the window, jaw set, pulse a little too steady for his liking. He wasn't sure what unsettled him more, the fact that Charlie was back in his orbit or the fact that, for the first time in years, a question lingered in his mind with no clear answer. Who exactly was Lily Monroe, and why had Charlie never told him about her? He stood, grabbed his jacket, and headed for the door. Noah sat up. Where are you going? To get some answers. Romeo had spent his life mastering control, controlling his image, his success, his story. But as he sat in the back of his car, staring out at the city that had made him, he felt something shift beneath his feet. The name in the file sat like a stone in his chest. Charlotte Monroe. Charlie. A name he hadn't spoken aloud in over a decade. He had been 24 the last time he saw her, freshly stepping into success, finally making a name for himself. His ambition had outweighed everything else. Charlie had been there from the very start, back when his dreams were just scribbles on napkins and late-night rants about the future. She had believed in him, even before he did. Still, when the opportunity came, he had walked away, telling himself that love and success couldn't exist in the same space, that she would only slow him down. He had never looked back, not once, until now. The car pulled up to a small bookstore nestled between an old cafe and a thrift shop, the kind of place that belonged in a postcard rather than the ever-expanding city skyline. The large window had a display of handwritten recommendations and an old wooden sign hanging above the door. The bell jingled softly as he stepped inside, and the scent of old paper and vanilla drifted toward him. It was small, intimate, the opposite of everything he had built for himself. And yet, as he stood there taking it in, something about it felt familiar. Then he saw her. Charlie stood behind the counter, flipping through a thick hardcover, completely unaware of him at first. Her hair was pinned up, a few strands slipping loose as she read with the same quiet focus he remembered from long ago. For a brief second, he felt the years melt away. Then, as if sensing him, she glanced up. She stilled, her fingers pressed lightly into the pages, her expression unreadable. He stepped forward, waiting for her to speak first. It took a beat longer than expected, but then she let out a breath, shutting the book with a deliberate snap. Well, I can't say I had this on my bingo card. Charlie. She leaned against the counter, folding her arms in a way that told him she was already bracing for whatever conversation was about to happen. So what's the occasion? Thought you'd stop by, maybe sign a few books. He ignored the dig. I ran into your daughter yesterday. She gave him a slow nod, like she had been expecting this. Lily has a habit of making first impressions, she told him. She gave us a slow nod, he replied. She said I forgot you in my book. Charlie lifted a brow. And did you? His jaw tightened. She seemed to think so. A smile flickered at the corner of her lips, but it wasn't amusement, more like something weighing on her, something old and unresolved. Romeo exhaled sharply. How old is she? She tilted her head, considering him, then let out a laugh, a genuine, from the stomach kind of laugh. Oh, Romeo, not everything is about you. His stomach twisted. So she's not. No, she said, still smiling, but there was something else behind it now. She's not yours. He should have felt relieved, but instead there was a strange, unexpected weight in his chest, something that had nothing to do with paternity. Then why did she come to me? Charlie's expression softened slightly, though she didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned, grabbed a notepad from behind the counter, and started scribbling something down. She's 7, she said, her voice more even now. She's smart, too smart for her own good sometimes, and she's got a thing for stories, especially the ones that aren't finished. Romeo frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Charlie tore the paper from the pad, folded it, and slid it across the counter. It means if you really want answers, you should probably ask her yourself. He hesitated before taking it, unfolding the paper to find an address. Charlie held his gaze for a moment longer before picking up her book again, flipping to the page she had been on before he walked in. It was a dismissal Romeo knew when he was being shut out. Still, he lingered for a moment, watching her as she returned to her reading like he had never stepped through the door at all. Then finally, he turned and walked out. Back in the car, he stared at the address in his hands. He had walked away from her once, convinced that success was the only thing that mattered. But now, he couldn't shake the feeling that this story, whatever it was far from over. Second part, the first encounter. Arriving at the bookstore, Romeo felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. As he stepped inside, the familiar scent of old books wrapped around him, pulling him back to memories he thought he had buried. The bell above the door jingled softly, announcing his presence. He scanned the shelves, searching for the little girl who had stirred something within him the night before. After a moment, he spotted Lily nestled between 2 towering stacks of books. Her dark curls bobbed as she flipped through a picture book, her concentration fierce. He hesitated, watching her for a moment. She was so small, yet there was an unmistakable strength in her demeanor, a confidence that belied her age. "Hey, Lily," he called gently, stepping closer. She looked up, her eyes widening with recognition. "You came," she exclaimed, a bright smile breaking across her face. "I thought you might." "I promised I would," he replied, kneeling down to her level. "Can we talk?" Lily nodded eagerly, her expression serious again, as if she understood the weight of the conversation that was about to unfold. "Did you read my notes in your book?" He felt a pang in his chest. "I saw them, yes. You had some interesting thoughts." "Interesting?" She raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "You left out important stuff, like how you didn't do it alone." Romeo shifted, feeling the familiar discomfort of being called out. "It's my story, Lily. I wrote about my experiences." "But it's not the whole story," she insisted, crossing her arms defiantly. "You need to tell the truth." Her words struck him harder than he expected. He had spent years crafting an image, a narrative that highlighted his success while conveniently omitting the struggles and the people who had helped him along the way. "What do you know about my struggles?" he asked, trying to maintain a light tone. Lily leaned closer, her eyes penetrating. "I know that you were human before you became a businessman. Mom says you used to care about things that mattered." Her mention of Charlie sent a ripple through him. He swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. "And what do you think matters now?" Lily shrugged, her expression softening. "I think people matter. You can't just be a CEO. You have to be a person too." He let her words linger, feeling the weight of their truth. Here was this little girl, so unencumbered by the complexities of adulthood, urging him to reconnect with the very essence of who he was. "You're right, Lily. I've lost sight of that." "Then fix it," she said simply, as if it were the easiest thing in the world. "You can start by telling your mom's story." "Your mother's story?" he echoed, a mix of surprise and curiosity coursing through him. "Yes. She's in the book too, even if you don't say it. You just have to remember." Before he could respond, the sound of a bell chimed again, and Charlie entered the bookstore, her expression shifting as she spotted him with Lily. "What's going on here?" she asked, a hint of wariness in her voice. "Just talking about stories," Romeo replied, glancing at Lily, who looked pleased with herself. Charlie's gaze softened as she studied her daughter. "Lily has a way of making people think," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. "Yeah, she's definitely good at that," he admitted, a smile creeping onto his face. Lily beamed at the praise, clearly enjoying the moment. "Mom, I told him he should fix his book. It needs the real stuff." Charlie raised an eyebrow, glancing at Romeo, who felt a flush of embarrassment. "And what did he say?" "He said he would," Lily declared, her confidence unwavering. Romeo chuckled, caught off guard by the girl's fierce determination. "I didn't say that exactly," he protested lightly. "Oh, come on. You can't just ignore what matters," Lily insisted, her small fists clenched in frustration. Charlie stepped closer, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder. "Let's give Mr. Callaway some space, okay, sweetie?" Lily huffed, but she nodded, recognizing her mother's tone. "Fine, but you better think about it." As Lily wandered back to the children's section, Charlie turned to Romeo, her expression shifting from parental concern to curiosity. "She really has a way of getting to the point, doesn't she?" "She does," he admitted, still processing the encounter. "She's wise beyond her years." Charlie studied him for a moment, her eyes searching his. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," he replied honestly, "but I think I need to figure it out." With that, a new sense of determination began to build within him. He realized that perhaps Lily was right. Maybe he owed it to himself and to the people who mattered to tell the whole story, the one he had kept hidden for so long. And as he left the bookstore that day, he felt a flicker of hope ignite in his chest, fueled by the unexpected wisdom of a little girl. Third part, unveiling the past. The next morning, Romeo woke up with a weight on his chest. He couldn't shake Lily's words from his mind. They echoed in his thoughts as he prepared for the day, urging him to confront the past he had buried deep within himself. He had always focused on building his empire, but now he felt an undeniable pull toward the unfinished story of his life. Arriving at the office, he found Noah waiting for him, a teasing grin plastered across his face. "You look like you've seen a ghost, boss. What's got you so distracted?" "Did you find anything about Lily Monroe?" Romeo asked, cutting straight to the chase. Noah's expression shifted to one of curiosity. "You're really interested in this kid, huh?" "I need to know more about her mother," Romeo replied, his tone serious. Noah nodded, pulling out a file from his bag. "Well, I dug up some information. You're not going to like it." Romeo felt his heart race as he opened the folder. The first thing he saw was a name, Charlotte Monroe. The air in the room shifted again, and the memories flooded back, pulling him into a whirlpool of emotions. He could picture her vividly, wild, passionate, and relentless. She had been his anchor during the early days of his career, the one who believed in him when he barely believed in himself. "What's she been up to?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Noah leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying the moment. "She runs a small bookstore in a decent neighborhood. No scandals, no dirt, just a quiet life." "And Lily?" Romeo pressed, anxiety creeping into his voice. "No record of a father," Noah replied, glancing at Romeo for a reaction. "She lives with Charlie, and from what I gathered, they seem to have a simple, happy life." A wave of guilt washed over him. He had walked away from it all, convinced that success was more important than love and family. "What makes her so special?" he murmured, more to himself than to Noah. "You tell me," Noah said, a hint of sarcasm in his tone. "You've been the one trying to forget." Romeo shut the file, determination surging within him. He couldn't ignore the pull any longer. "I need to see them," he declared, the decision echoing in his mind like a drumbeat. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Noah cautioned, his brow furrowing. "You're a public figure, Romeo. This could stir up a lot of media attention." "I don't care," Romeo replied, his voice firm. "I need to face my past. I owe it to them and to myself." With that, he stood up, grabbing his jacket from the back of his chair. The world outside felt different as he made his way to the car, the weight of his past no longer a burden but a path he was ready to walk. As he drove through the familiar streets, memories flooded back, moments of laughter, dreams shared, and the bittersweet taste of what could have been. He realized how much he had missed Charlie, how her absence had created a void in his life that success could never fill. Finally, he arrived at the small bookstore, a quaint establishment nestled between the cafe and the thrift shop. The charming facade brought a rush of nostalgia, and he felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety as he stepped inside. The bell chimed softly, and the scent of coffee and paper enveloped him. He spotted Charlie behind the counter, engrossed in a book, her hair cascading down her back. For a moment he stood there, watching her, feeling the years slip away. She looked up, and their eyes met. A flicker of recognition passed between them, stirring emotions long buried. "Romeo," she said, her voice steady despite the surprise on her face. "Charlie," he replied, his heart pounding. "I came to talk." She set the book down, folding her arms across her chest. "About what? The past?" "Yes," he admitted, stepping closer. "About Lily and everything we left behind." Charlie's expression softened, a mix of curiosity and caution. "You want to know about Lily?" "I want to know about you, too," he said, the sincerity in his voice evident. "I want to understand why I walked away and what that cost us." For a moment, as if weighing her response. "It's not a simple story, Romeo." "Then let's talk," he urged, his resolve strengthening. "I need to hear it. I need to hear the truth." Charlie nodded slowly, her walls beginning to crumble. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's start with Lily." As they settled into a conversation, he felt the weight of the past lifting ever so slightly. It wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face the truth and the consequences of his choices. The journey to rediscover himself and the family he had left behind was just beginning, and for the first time in years, he felt hope stirring within him. Fourth part, the rising conflict. Days turned into weeks as Romeo spent more time at the bookstore, each visit deepening his connection with both Charlie and Lily. Their interactions were filled with a mix of awkwardness and warmth as they navigated the unresolved feelings from their past. Every conversation felt like a step toward healing, yet the shadows of their history loomed large. One afternoon, as the sunlight poured through the bookstore windows, Lily pulled Romeo aside. "Are you going to fix your book?" she asked, her expression serious. He paused, taken aback by her directness. "What do you mean?" "You know, the part where you left out my mom." Romeo felt his heart race. "I'm still thinking about it, Lily." "It's not fair to her," she insisted, her small hands on her hips. "She helped you, and you didn't even say her name." "I know," he replied, kneeling to meet her gaze. "But it's complicated." "Complicated doesn't mean you can ignore it," she said, her tone unwavering. "You have to tell the truth." Her words struck a chord within him, and he felt the weight of her expectation. "You're right," he admitted, feeling a flicker of determination. "I need to write about her." As the days passed, Romeo's resolve grew stronger. He found himself poring over his notes, revisiting the memories he had long avoided. However, the more he delved into his past, the more he felt the pressure of the present. News of his visits to the bookstore began to circulate, and the media was quick to pounce. Speculation swirled about a possible scandal involving a secret family, and he could feel the scrutiny intensifying. One evening, as he sat in his office, the phone rang. It was Noah, his assistant. "Boss, the board is getting nervous. They want answers about your connection to Lily and Charlie. They're worried about how this will affect your image." "I don't care about my image, Noah," Romeo replied, frustration bubbling to the surface. "I'm trying to do the right thing." "Right thing or not, you know how the media works," Noah cautioned. "You need to distance yourself from this before it spirals out of control. They're already speculating about everything. Affairs, hidden children." Romeo's jaw tightened. "I won't deny my connection to them. I'm not ashamed." "Just think about it," Noah urged. "You're a public figure. Your decisions have consequences." As he hung up the phone, Romeo felt a surge of anger mixed with helplessness. He had spent years controlling every aspect of his life, but now he was in uncharted territory. The thought of retreating into the safety of his carefully curated image was suffocating, but the risk of exposing himself felt equally daunting. The following day, he decided to confront Charlie about the growing media frenzy. He walked into the bookstore, his heart pounding. Charlie was at the register, sorting through a stack of books. "Charlie, we need to talk," he said, his voice steady. She looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes. "About what?" "The media. They're making a big deal out of us, and I don't want you to get hurt." Her expression hardened. "I can handle myself, Romeo. I've done it for years." "I know you can," he replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "But this isn't just about you anymore. They're speculating about Lily, about our connection. I don't want her to be affected by this." Charlie sighed, running a hand through her hair. "So what do you want me to do?" "No, I want to be honest," he said, his tone softening. "I want to tell our story, the real story, but I need your help." She studied him, uncertainty written across her face. "What does that even mean?" "It means I want to rewrite my book to include you and Lil. I want to acknowledge everything, what we had and what we lost," he explained, feeling the weight of his confession. Charlie's eyes widened, and for a moment, he thought she might refuse. But then she exhaled slowly, her defenses wavering. "You really think the world is ready for that?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I can't keep running from the truth. Not anymore." They stood in silence, the tension between them palpable. Finally, Charlie nodded, her expression softening. "Fine, let's do it. But you have to promise me that you'll be honest." "I promise," he said, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. As they began to outline the new chapters of their lives, a sense of purpose started to take shape. But just as they began to find their rhythm, the media storm intensified. Reports surfaced detailing every aspect of Romeo's life, speculating about his relationship with Charlie and Lily. The headlines twisted their narrative into something ugly, something that threatened to overshadow the honesty they were trying to build. Romeo felt the pressure mounting, but he refused to back down. He was determined to face the truth, to embrace the complexity of his past, and to honor the family he had almost lost. As he and Charlie worked together, he felt a renewed sense of hope and a commitment to rewriting their story, not just for the world to see, but for themselves, for Lily, and for the future they all deserved. Fifth part, the emotional climax. As the weeks unfolded, Romeo and Charlie immersed themselves in the process of rewriting his book. They spent countless hours in the bookstore, surrounded by the comforting scent of old pages and freshly brewed coffee. Each conversation peeled back layers of their past, revealing the intricate tapestry of their shared history, filled with love, loss, and unspoken words. Lily often joined them, her youthful enthusiasm infusing the atmosphere with a sense of lightness. "Are you going to include the part about how you two used to dance?" she asked one day, eyes sparkling with mischief. Romeo exchanged a glance with Charlie, who blushed slightly. "I'm not sure that's relevant," he replied, chuckling. "It is. You both love dancing," Lily insisted. "Mom says you're terrible at it, but you always try." Charlie laughed, shaking her head. "I think I remember a few toe-crushing moments." "Exactly. That's the kind of stuff people want to read about," Lily exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. "They want the real story." Romeo smiled at her fervor, realizing how right she was. It wasn't just about success. It was about the journey, the messiness, and the connections that had shaped him. But as they delved deeper into the narrative, the media frenzy grew more intense. Headlines blared about his secret family, sensationalizing his every move. Photographers lurked outside the bookstore, waiting for a glimpse of the trio, turning their lives into a spectacle. One evening, as they closed up shop, Romeo turned to Charlie, the weight of the world pressing down on him. "This is getting out of hand," he said, frustration lacing his voice. "I know," she replied, her brow furrowed, "but we can't let them dictate our story." "They're making it impossible to focus," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I hate that Lily is getting dragged into this." Charlie's expression softened, and she reached for his hand. "We can't control what they say, but we can control our response. We need to stay true to ourselves." "Right," he agreed, squeezing her hand. We have to keep moving forward for Lily. That night, as he lay in bed, Romeo reflected on everything that had transpired. He thought about his life, the choices he had made, and the people he had hurt. The fear of losing everything again clawed at him, but he knew he couldn't back down. The next day, he decided to hold a press conference. He gathered the media, ready to confront the rumors head-on. As he stood before the cameras, the weight of the moment settled heavily on his shoulders. I want to clarify a few things, he began, his voice steady despite the anxiety swirling inside him. I'm not ashamed of my past, and I won't hide from it anymore. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on him. Lily Monroe is my daughter in spirit, if not by blood. Her mother, Charlotte Monroe, is a pivotal part of my story, and I won't allow anyone to twist that into something ugly. Gasps filled the room, and he pressed on. I've spent too long trying to control my narrative. But the truth is, I didn't do it alone. I had help from people who believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. He paused, searching the crowd for familiar faces. I'm writing a new edition of my book, one that honors my journey, my failures, and my relationships. It's time to tell the real story. The cameras flashed, and he felt a sense of release wash over him. For the first time, he was standing in his truth, unafraid of the consequences. As the press conference wrapped up, he returned to the bookstore, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Charlie was waiting for him, her eyes wide with surprise. You did it, she said, a proud smile spreading across her face. Yeah, he replied, still catching his breath. I couldn't keep hiding. Lily appeared, bouncing on her feet. Did you really tell them the truth? I did, he confirmed, kneeling down to her level. And I'm going to make sure your mom gets the recognition she deserves. Good, because she's amazing, Lily exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the bookstore and the love of the two people who mattered most, Romeo felt a sense of clarity and purpose. He was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that he had finally taken the step toward healing and redemption. But as the media continued to swirl around them, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but he was determined to navigate it with honesty, embracing the messiness of life and the relationships that truly defined him. Together, they would rewrite their story, one that was real, raw, and ultimately filled with hope. Sixth part, the resolution and future. In the weeks that followed the press conference, the media frenzy began to evolve. While speculation still lingered, the narrative had shifted. People were intrigued not just by the sensational aspects of Romeo's life, but by the authenticity he had chosen to embrace. The public responded to his honesty with curiosity and empathy, and slowly but surely, the story of his past began to resonate with others who had faced their own challenges. As the release date for the new edition of the Callaway legacy approached, Romeo, Charlie, and Lily worked tirelessly together. They spent evenings in the bookstore, poring over drafts, making revisions, and sharing laughter. Romeo felt the bonds between them strengthen, and for the first time in years, he felt truly connected, not just to his past, but to his present. One afternoon, they gathered in the cozy reading nook at the back of the bookstore, surrounded by piles of books and the comforting scent of vanilla from a candle flickering nearby. Romeo looked at Charlie and Lily, a sense of gratitude swelling within him. I couldn't have done this without you two, he said, his voice sincere. You've both inspired me to be better. Lily grinned, her eyes sparkling. And now everyone will know how awesome my mom is. Charlie chuckled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. It's not just about me, you know. It's about all of us. Exactly, Romeo agreed. This is our story, and it deserves to be told. The day of the book launch finally arrived, and the bookstore buzzed with energy. A crowd gathered outside, eager to hear Romeo speak and to get their hands on the new edition. As he stood at the front of the store, looking out at the familiar faces, he felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. Thank you all for being here, he began, his voice steady. Today isn't just about the book. It's about facing our truths and embracing our journeys. I've spent too long hiding from my past, but with the support of my incredible daughter, Lily, and the amazing woman who raised her, Charlie, I've learned that vulnerability is strength. The audience responded with applause, and he continued. This new edition includes the chapter I've called The Forgotten Chapter, which honors the people who shaped my life. It's a testament to the fact that success isn't just about individual achievements, it's about the connections we make and the love we share. As he shared anecdotes from his life, the stories of struggles and triumphs, he noticed Charlie and Lily beaming with pride. Their presence gave him strength, and he felt more at ease with each passing moment. After the reading, he opened the floor for questions. Hands shot up, and he fielded inquiries about his journey, his relationship with Charlie, and the lessons he had learned along the way. The atmosphere was electric, filled with genuine interest and respect. When the event concluded, Lily rushed up to him, her excitement palpable. That was amazing, Dad. Everyone loved it. Thanks, kiddo. He smiled, pulling her into a hug. Charlie approached, her eyes shining. You were incredible. You really showed everyone who you are. I couldn't have done it without you, he replied, looking into her eyes. Thank you for believing in me. As they celebrated with friends and family, Romeo realized how much had changed in his life. The pain of loss had transformed into a sense of purpose, and he felt hopeful about the future. In the following months, the bookstore flourished with new customers, drawn by the heartfelt story behind the book. Lily thrived in her new role as an unofficial ambassador for her mother's bookstore, engaging with customers and sharing her love for reading. Romeo found joy in the little moments, storytime sessions with Lily, quiet evenings spent with Charlie, and the laughter they shared. Their bond deepened, and while they hadn't defined their relationship in traditional terms, there was an unspoken understanding that they were building something meaningful together. One chilly evening, as they closed up the bookstore, Charlie turned to him, a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. Do you think we'll ever be able to move forward without the weight of the past hanging over us? Romeo considered her question, feeling the warmth of her hand in his. I think we already are. We're not just moving forward, we're creating something new together. Charlie smiled softly, and in that moment, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. They had faced their ghosts and were learning to embrace the present. As they stepped out into the cool night air, hand in hand, Romeo knew the journey ahead would still have its challenges. But with Charlie and Lily by his side, he felt ready to face whatever life had in store. Together, they would continue to write their story, one chapter at a time, filled with love, resilience, and the beautiful messiness of life.